Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Griffin with Dominate Solutions. I'm happy today to be on a webinar with one of our partners we really like to work with, which is JobPlanner. And in the webinar today, we're going to take you through some of the ways we help customers, specifically specialty trade contractors, with their project management needs. With that, I will turn it over to the JobPlanner team here to do their introductions, and then we'll get right into the webinar.
Sounds good. Well, great. Nice to meet everyone. Glad to see you guys on here. And if you're watching the recording in the future, hello from the past. My name's Brian. I'm a solution engineer here with JobPlanner. And I'll kick it over to PJ to introduce himself.
Fantastic. Hi, yeah, how's it going? I'm PJ. I sit on the sales side here at JobPlanner. So we'll keep this practical and focused on how this actually work for everybody's day to day. So yeah, Brian, if you want to continue it. Awesome. So who we are. So at a high level, JobPlanner is a construction project management platform. So more specifically, it's going to sit between your field ops and your back office. So a lot of companies are either trying to manage everything in their accounting system, or they're using multiple tools that aren't really connected. So JobPlanner brings that operational side into one place, so managing jobs, tracking progress, and keeping everyone in line. So the goal is not just visibility, but making sure your team's actually going to use it. Awesome. So common challenges. Yeah, so what we typically see before companies move to something like this is a lot of disconnected processes. So from a management perspective, it's really hard to get a clear picture of what's going on, chasing updates, trying to understand job progress, costs, where things stand across multiple projects. From the office side, you're spending a lot of time coordinating, following up with the field, organizing information, and re-entering data into a bunch of different systems. Then from the field side, your focus is just getting the work done. So you're not thinking about reporting and documentation. So updates and stuff can be a little inconsistent and delayed. So basically what ends up happening is information scattered, communications reactive, and you're constantly piecing things together instead of having that clear real-time view that we'd all love to have. Fantastic. So how JobPlanner solves these challenges. So what JobPlanner does is it brings all of that into one system, gives your field a simple way to capture what's happening on the job, photos, notes, daily updates, things like that. And at the same time, your office is going to have that real-time visibility without needing to chase information around. Essentially, all living in one place, your team isn't working off the same information, or is working off the same information, excuse me. So yeah, that's a high-level overview of JobPlanner. I'm going to hand it off to Brian. He's going to walk through next few slides and show you what it actually looks like in practice.
Sure. So before I do that, I want to actually pass it to Rob and just thank him and Dominate Solutions for having us today and running this whole party. So Rob, I know you had a little bit of content that you wanted to go through about Dominate first. So I'll go back in time here and go to your slides if you want to mention that before we get into the job planner specific stuff.
Sure. Thank you, Brian and PJ. And again, thank you for everybody who's attending today. And kind of the setup that they gave, why it's so important to have this type of solution, where we fit in the picture, and again, why we like to work with teams like JobPlanner is because as a specialty technology and consulting firm in the construction industry, we frequently work with customers that really need an independent voice. We need to meet them where they're at with the tools they have today. They may have a lot of needs, and those needs might include replacing the ERP, it might include replacing project management and a number of other solutions. But at the same time, a lot of them like to step through this process with somebody who can guide them on the right tool selection and the right sequence to do that. And that's why we like to say we are independent. We do have a very specialized team in the Acumatica construction ERP solution, and we also provide independent services and consulting for other ERP solutions as well. But what's most important is that we meet these customers where they're at and help them make the right decisions to transform their business and to gain those efficiencies that they're really looking for. Spreadsheets are very difficult to manage as you scale, as many of you know. Now, as far as our experience, 25 years of experience in the technology landscape, especially with ERP, we've seen a lot, and we know how to work with customers of all sizes, how to get you where you need to be from a solution standpoint. The way we do that, we take a very consultative approach. We like to come in, actually sit with you in person. We like to see how you do your work, where the gaps, the pain points are, and really build a roadmap of facts based on how you're working today, how you would like to work tomorrow, and then work with you to figure out how you want to execute that roadmap so that it doesn't have to be a one size fits all. It doesn't have to be a big bang approach. It can be small and incremental. It's really tailored to how you need to work, how you need to transform, how we can move you from where you are today to where you need to be tomorrow. And the difference that we bring to the table is we're always going to listen first. We're going to bring our subject matter expertise and knowledge of the industry. The tools you're using today help guide you to understand which ones can be replaced, which ones can be integrated, which ones are good fits with what exists in the marketplace. As we deploy those, what's most important and what's on your mind is how do you get adoption? How do you get your team to adopt these new tools and gain efficiencies, performance, protect your margins? And that's why I'm excited today with JobPlanner, because they think about this exactly the same way. And they have a tool that's very easy to use, very cost effective, and it will get you where you want to go. So with that, thank you, Brian and PJ. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Sounds good. Great. Appreciate that, Rob. And again, we appreciate Dominique throwing this whole party here and inviting us. So I'll jump forward here. Did I miss one? No. Okay, great. So the next slide that I want to talk to from the Job Planner specific content is how Job Planner fits with your accounting system. So Rob was mentioning, and PJ as well, that many times, especially in the construction industry, there are many disconnected systems. We have estimating happening in Excel or in some other system. We have, our invoicing comes out of our accounting system perhaps, and there's some bookkeeping in there as well. But then we also need to use Textura and GC Pay and be submitting for payment applications. And, operations is happening somewhere completely different where it's just text messages for scheduling, or scheduling's happening in a Google Sheet or something like that, or Microsoft Project. There's so many of these disparate systems that don't end up talking with one another. And so like PJ alluded to, there's guys in the field that are doing one thing, there's people in the office doing another thing, and it's just challenging to make it all fit together. So the way the Job Planner tries to fit into the whole ecosystem there is to really play nice with different accounting systems. So PJ alluded to how there's a handful of integrations that Job Planner has. We do integrate with QuickBooks Online. We integrate with Sage 100, Sage 300, Sage Intacct, and Acumatica as well. So a handful of these construction-focused ERP solutions, Job Planner has built and maintains integrations with these different folks. I should also mention QuickBooks, what do they call it now? Intuit Enterprise Suite. That's kind of Intuit's foray into the ERP world. And so the API there, by the way, is pretty similar to QuickBooks Online. So we can integrate to that one as well if that's one that you've been considering, or if anybody in attendance is currently using that system. So the integration there, if you're curious about it, I'll go through it a little bit in a demo here as we get to that. But essentially, it's the financially flavored pieces that are happening in a project management tool. What I mean by that is change orders, for instance, right? Or change requests. Perhaps invoicing as well. Might be things that your PMs are handling for the most part, but they have financial implications that should be communicated back to the accounting system. So things like that that are kind of that bridge between operations and finance, that's where Job Planner sits, and the integration there is such that we can pull information from the accounting system to inform what we see in Job Planner, and then depending on what records are created in Job Planner, we can push some of that information back to the accounting system, provided that the correct approvals are in place, the right people are viewing these records and marking them as approved before they make their way over to the accounting system. So at this point, you might be wondering, who is it that actually uses Job Planner? Why might it be helpful for me? Well, short of showing you a demo, which I'll do in just a moment, if you're curious who uses Job Planner, here's a quick slide on what types of customers we have. So specialty subcontractors, who we're focusing on today. We do also have customers that are commercial GCs, developers, and owners, someone like perhaps a fast food chain or a healthcare system that are owners of these projects, but still want to have some management that GCs and subcontractors are collaborating with them inside of, and construction management companies as well. Specialty subcontractors is absolutely one of our focus, and we have some tools and functionality that are specific to the trades that I'll make sure that I go through here shortly. But just want to mention, as you can see here, it's all construction focused. Job Planner doesn't really have plans to branch out into manufacturing or professional service or other types of project-based businesses. Job Planner has and always will be a construction focused solution built by construction professionals to the construction industry. So that's why we love working with Rob and the Dominate team. They have a similar focus as well. They have a deep industry knowledge. So we're excited to partner with them whenever we get the chance to. That being said, let's talk about what we're actually going to see in the system today. So I'm going to plan to run through some of these kind of best features here, the best hits of Job Planner. We'll take a look at RFIs and submittals, what it looks like to communicate between the field and the office. I'll also go ahead and open up the Job Planner mobile app on my phone here. So we'll see what it looks like from a field perspective. Daily reporting, updates from the field, creating action items, assigning them to folks back in the office, or vice versa, we'll take a look at. And then scheduling with Gantt charts. Sometimes there are trade partners that we talk to who, they just have a master schedule that's provided by the GC and that's what they follow. Other times they're required to provide a Gantt chart document to a GC to fit into their overall schedule. Other times it's like, yeah, we get the master schedule from a GC, but the detail there just isn't what we need. We need more depth and detail to that Gantt chart schedule. And so I can show you what it looks like to manage that in Job Planner. Drawings, those markup tools as well. We'll take a look at that. Extended team collaboration, meaning, do you need the engineer to take a look at that submittal? Do you need to send something along to the GC? Are you going to engage with a third tier sub and need them to come into your Job Planner project management environment for one reason or another? I'll make sure I highlight that, as well as job costing tools, accounting connections. When it comes to the job costing, let's say you're on QuickBooks. Depending on what kind of environment you're in, you might not really have project budgeting today. And so it's really challenging to track budgeted versus actuals. It's just challenging to get that view of like, are we on budget? Are we really making money on this job? And while at the end of the day, an accounting system is built for things like that, Job Planner does absolutely have tools to help fill in those gaps and provide some visibility to the more operations team rather than it always needing to fall in accounting to send those reports and kind of corral the forces there. So that being said, I'll go ahead and jump over to my Job Planner environment and we'll take a look at these things that I've been describing. So at this point, you should be seeing my Job Planner screen. And here I'm currently looking right in the middle of a day in the life of somebody running a construction project. So I'm here on this tower hotel project. I'm able to see, some important widgets here. So I can see the schedule on this job. I can see the submittals. I can see daily reports. And right from a glance, I can see that we're missing quite a few of those. So maybe I need to talk to some people about that. Punch list items, action items, and so on. So I'm within a particular project right now, and when I break down this menu here, I'm able to see all of the menu options that I have access to within just one job. Now, I can absolutely click into some other jobs and we can see them as well, but my environment's going to be similar where I'm taking a look at these different tools as it relates to the Tower Hotel project. So this is this project's schedule, this project's submittal log, the daily reports and how that's set up for this particular job, as well as this job's budget, contract for invoicing purposes and so on. One other thing that I'll mention here, folks, is as I broke down that menu and as we see my permissions throughout the system, it's easy to tell that I'm an admin user. I have access to all of these menu options here. Of course, this is something that may or may not be the same in your environment. Perhaps very few people would have access to all of the tools like I do. Maybe people wouldn't be able to create something, approve it, push it through the whole process. I can do that because it's helpful for demo purposes, but just bear in mind that Job Planner is absolutely a role-based system such that when somebody logs in, they'll only have the permissions that you've given them. To drill into that just a little bit more, I'll go ahead and jump into my user types right here in Job Planner. So I have these different folks set up here, lead PM, superintendent, and estimator at my company. And if I click into that key right there, I'm able to see the permissions that these folks have. And so this is just to highlight the fact that, like I mentioned, Job Planner is a role-based system here, so we can very easily decide who can see what. Maybe somebody can see something but not edit it, or they can just leave a comment but not mark it as approved or something like that. So that kind of granular permissioning, very straightforward within Job Planner. And then, hey, maybe you hire a new PM, a new project coordinator, and they're pretty green, they're pretty new. We don't want to give them all the permissions that somebody typically has. We could go ahead and say for just that user in particular, we're going to, shrink how many permissions they have, or we trust somebody more than others, and so we could give that individual user more permissions. That's all fair game. Guest user types over here on the right. This would include that extended project collaboration, extended project team collaboration that we discussed earlier. So, hey, maybe we are going to have GCs come into our job planner in some form or fashion where they can see some types of information, or we need to manage a submittal where it's actually on us to go ahead and run that through the process, or we need to ask somebody a question, right, in an RFI. What we can do then is establish these guest user types, and those would just be set up as contacts in your system. All you need is a company name, first and last name of an individual at that company, and then an email address. And they could be a contact in your system. And then you'd be able to assign them to various records throughout Job Planner. So for instance, I'll just take the example of an architect. I clicked on the bell icon there to open up that user type's notifications. And so we can see here, my architects currently aren't getting any emails. But perhaps I have a question on the drawings that I've been provided. I could just go ahead and set them up as a contact in my system, create an RFI, assign that architect to the RFI. And as soon as I click save, if I have this notification right here, assigned for RFIs turned on, as soon as I click save on that new RFI, it's been assigned to the architect. It's going to fire off an email to them automatically that's going to have a big blue box in that email that says view RFI. Right in the body of the email, they'll see, hey, it's ABC Construction. They sent you this email, they assigned you to a new RFI. The due date is X. The project name is X, right? And then they could click on that big blue button. It takes them into Job Planner without even needing to log in. So this is a free account that we provide to those external users. They don't have to log in. They don't pay for it. You don't pay for it. Just a free service that Job Planner provides, where that extended project team can come in and potentially collaborate with you on that RFI, upload an attachment, or leave a comment or things of that nature. Then it would be on your team to go ahead and review that comment and mark it as closed or something like that. So that's a little bit about Job Planner being a role-based system there and setting up my external users. Just helpful to set the stage as we continue on throughout the rest of the system here. I'll jump back into my one job, and before I keep going here, I'll just break open my projects right here, and we can see my list of current projects. Now, this is actually just my favorite jobs. We could also have archived jobs within here, jobs with various statuses. That's all fair game within Job Planner. I can have start and finish dates, addresses, and then if there's any other information that I would want to be on here, I could go ahead and click on the settings icon and say, hey, I also want to see which crew do we have working on this job, right? This is a field that I created myself. It's just a user-defined field. I went into settings and clicked new field. I called it crew. I made it a text field that I can just type something in. It could also be a drop down with multiple crew options on there if you work with a variety of crews at your company. And that could definitely be something that you track within the system. Creating custom fields or user-defined fields requires no technical experience. You can just go into settings and add it yourself. It's very straightforward. And then it's even, you could show it up on reports like this or things like that in the future. Great. Right from here, I can go ahead and jump into a project. Last thing I'll mention on this screen is that Job Planner provides you unlimited projects with all pricing tiers. So it's never something where we're going to charge you for having a particularly large job or having too many jobs within a given month. As you scale, for us, that's just good news for you guys. We're not going to charge you extra for additional jobs. Another thing we don't charge you for is storage within those jobs. So if you guys have lots of drawings that need to be uploaded, if you have folks in the field that are collaborating with you on those drawings, uploading pictures to these projects, that's all something that is unlimited with Job Planner. It's unlimited cloud storage also with all of our pricing tiers. So Job Planner is just user-based pricing. So unlimited projects and unlimited guest users, all that good stuff. That being said, let me go ahead and take us through that flow that I was talking about earlier of kind of going through some of the greatest hits within Job Planner. And then if you or somebody at your company would be interested in taking a further look, we'd be happy to schedule a call with you. We'll have contact information to go ahead and get in touch with either us or Rob and his team, and we'd be happy to set up a demo to get into your needs specifically. But for our greatest hits today, I'll go ahead and start us like I had on the slide on RFIs, since I already kind of started talking about that. I'll also mention, by the way, guys, this widget right here for RFIs, if I click on that, it can also open up that screen so I can get to my RFI log for this particular project pretty simply. So here we are within RFIs. If I click new RFI, we can see the form to fill out here. Pretty straightforward. To whom is this assigned? You can set a distribution list that could get a copy of this RFI once it's been completed. Of course, you can give it a title. We have auto numbering in our system that if you just click save, it'll give it the next number, what the due date is, all that good stuff here as well. And then, of course, a field for the question itself, and then any accepted responses. Accepted responses means, hey, maybe and I'll click into an RFI that's actually in progress here. We'll take this one, foundation wall thickness. So we're pouring the concrete wall here, and there's a discrepancy on the plans, right? One plan says it's supposed to be that thick, another one says it's supposed to be that thick, so which one's right here? We sent off this RFI to the architect, and perhaps this initiated from the field. Bob the builder is my foreman on this job, and he went ahead and asked this of somebody in the office, right? Or actually created by Brian. So I made this, I'm the foreman on the job. And I signed it to Bob the builder. He's the PM in the office here at ABC Construction Company, right? Bob looked at it and said, I don't know. I see the same discrepancy in those plans. Not sure what the answer is, so let me send this off to the architect. So he went ahead and clicked the pencil icon. It opened up the list of project contacts on here, and he could go ahead and find, hey, I'm just trying to look at architects right now. And so he filtered that down, found the architect on this particular job, assigned them to this RFI, and then just as we talked about earlier, as soon as he clicks save down here, that can go ahead and fire off that email to, in this case, Archie, my cleverly named architect. So Archie got that email, he clicked in, he saw the discrepancy, he said, whoops, as all of our nice architects do. If he had questions, he could go ahead and leave them in a response right here, or maybe he could answer and say, hey, 16 inches is the correct thickness. And then he was a super nice guy. We can see all impacted drawings have been attached. So I had a version of the plan right here that was in question, and he went ahead and was a super nice guy and admitted his mistakes like all good architects do. And he said, uploaded that revised version. And we can see a name, date, and timestamp that all took place. So pretty simple to have that collaboration within here. Again, that's all without Archie needing to pay for a job planner account, needing to log in. He just clicked on view RFI. It took him right in here and he could collaborate with us there. When I accept that response, that kind of pins it to the top here like we're seeing here. And so if anybody in the future comes into this RFI and is curious what the answer is, they'll be able to see this pinned right up at the top for us. Great. So that's a little bit about the RFI process there. If we ever have questions throughout, please feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll be keeping our eye on that. And we do have time dedicated for Q&A at the end. But if you have questions as we go throughout, go ahead and throw them in the chat while they're fresh on your mind. That being said, I also want us to take a look at submittals. Submittals can be queued up a couple of different ways in Job Planner. We could either just click new submittal right here and work us through the process of setting up each one individually. If the jobs that you tend to work have let's say 60% of the submittals from one job to the next tend to be pretty similar. Maybe not 100%, but we could save some time by having templates. Job Planner does have templating right here where I could have a variety of jobs that we perform in here. And then this could import a whole list of submittals into this project. And then I could go ahead and tweak it from there, delete out the ones that aren't relevant to this spec package, or the ones that, add a couple additional ones for this particular project. And we could, of course, import the item types from there, whether it's shop drawings or material samples that we need to provide, import who the submitter is, all of that good stuff. So just queue them up by clicking new submittal, by going to the templates here, or if you're provided the specifications, Job Planner does also have a spec tool right here where you could upload the entire spec book, and then we have some OCR technology, it's ocular character recognition. In other words, it's going to scan through the whole submittal package, the entire spec book, and it's going to break it up into the spec sections for you automatically. And then you could go ahead and, forget about the ones that aren't relevant to you guys, but then find the ones that are. For instance, I'll just find one irrigation here, right? This particular section. I could go ahead and right from here, click create submittals. I could have also just selected a bunch of um, these different spec sections. And when I click create submittals, it's going to spin up this form right here where I'm able to see, if I click on open section, this spec book is like 400 pages long, but it's only the 5 pages related to this spec section. And we can see how that OCR has done. It's scanned through and found, hey, we think that these are submittals on this job, which in fact they are. And then just if Job Planner happened to miss any, you could click add and say, hey, Job Planner, this is also going to be a submittal that's in our purview. So I could go ahead and highlight that. It's going to extract that text and I can click add. And then if we go back to my review process right here, we can see that I now have those 3 submittals that need to be queued up. I could go ahead and assign this a workflow template. In other words, once this leaves my court, more than likely, you guys aren't going to be the ones managing it through its whole life cycle. You just need to submit it. And then when you know that it's actually been approved, you can come in here and mark it as approved so that everybody in the field knows that these are the approved materials or whatever that submittal happened to be. At the end of the day, I'm not ignorant of the fact that probably you're going to have to do another process for this, whether it's submittal exchange or you're going to have to log into the GC's Procore to do this as well. This is just a great way for you guys to manage in your own system and communicate to your field folks what's been approved thus far, right? And also it can scan through, if you're provided that spec manual, it can scan through it and kind of queue up those submittals for you. So it can help you with that process of just being able to communicate and keep track of the submittals on each project. Keep them moving along as necessary, mark them as approved or reviewed or whatever verbiage you want. And then you'd be able to know that, yes, we can go ahead and, and install that, whatever it happened to be, whether it's, HVAC submittals, concrete, decoration subs. We've worked with plenty of different people and they tend to like the ability to manage the submittals all in one place here. Excellent. What else was on my agenda? So after RFI and submittals, daily reports and field updates. So let's take a look at that before we jump over into scheduling as well. I think the best place to do this is just to go ahead and open up my phone here, and we can go through the Job Planner mobile app. So let me go on Do Not Disturb first, so you guys don't have to be bothered by, the text from my wife saying that she loves me or something annoying like that. I'll jump into my phone here. So this is just my phone. Running the Job Planner mobile app that you're seeing on the screen. And the first thing I'll mention here is that this is role-based just like the browser version, right? So if I can't see something on the browser, I won't be able to see it on the phone either. And that's a useful tool, not just to control kind of what they're able to see, but also to make this a very targeted experience. The folks in the field are there to execute the project, right? They don't need to be messing with software that isn't relevant to them. And so whatever tools in here that you probably wouldn't use, like maybe that submittals that I just showed you is kind of cool, but it's like, we're just not really going to use that in our business. You could turn that off for the mobile app, just so that way when they scroll down, they don't have to look at it every day. It's not going to be cluttering up their view. They'll just see what's relevant to them. And that could be role-based as well. So here on the mobile app, I'll go ahead and jump into the daily reports. This is one of the places that we can start to get that feedback from the field of what's being completed on this job as it goes on. The work logs there is hinting at the fact that we can track who is on the job and what were they working on. If perhaps you have some subcontractors that are underneath you that you need to track, not for time tracking purposes, but just to see that they were there and maintain that record. The work logs can be a great place for that. You also have general notes that can capture expenses from the field and put them in here. Deliveries to the job site. So I'll just tap into that one for instance. So here in deliveries, if I go ahead and tap on the plus icon at the bottom, that's going to spin up this form right here where I can say the tracking number from this, the PO number as well, the contents, any notes, was this damaged, right? It arrived at the job site, we were supposed to get 50 of whatever, and we only got 49, or 5 of them were damaged. You could have that in notes and go ahead and upload an attachment right there of a picture of that delivery landing at the job site. So anytime you're seeing those attachments within Job Planner, that camera icon is going to go ahead and open up the camera where you can snap a picture of whatever you're looking at the moment, and then upload that straight to the cloud without even saving on their phone's device. which is nice. A lot of times, our field guys, they don't want to have their camera roll cluttered up with pictures from work. So this is just going to upload right to JobPlanner without even saving on their phone. Other times, maybe they're filling out the daily report or creating a punch list after the fact. They snapped a couple of pictures throughout the day. They're back in the hotel room or back home and they're filling out this daily report at the end of the day. They could go ahead and tap on that little photos icon next to the camera and opens up their phone's internal storage where now they could access their camera roll, go ahead and tap a picture or select multiple and upload them all in one shot. Great. So that kind of experience is all throughout the daily reports, whether it's in deliveries or expenses, communication logs. Somebody was on the job site, they said this or that, whether it's a phone conversation or a phone call or an in-person visit. You could track all of that within communication logs. Inspection logs. Was there a pre-slab inspection? Was there a pre-framing inspection? Something that we need to track. Then you could go ahead and keep track of that right in there, whether you passed or failed, take a picture of the cert, all that good stuff. And then the last one I want to highlight here is survey. This is the most configurable part of the daily report where we can say, hey, on our jobs, we like to ask certain questions on certain days, right? It doesn't need to be to this level of detail. And this one's blank actually because today's a Thursday. I have my daily report configured to where I could submit a Thursday's report with nothing else on it. So I can hit submit report on the bottom right, and it's going to go ahead and show me what that daily report would look like. So it can have some project information, weather reports. It's going to go ahead and grab from the zip code that was uploaded on the project data, and then they can review that and sign it. And then any of the fields that they filled out, notes, deliveries, inspections, that would all populate on here. But if I go ahead and do what we all want to do and jump forward to Friday, tomorrow, then we'll be able to see that my surveys are set up where on Fridays, I'm asking 3 questions. Any safety issues to on site? How is productivity this week on a scale from 1 to 10, right? A question that makes sense to ask on Fridays. And you'll notice from that red asterisk that this is required. So they actually need to answer this question in order to submit this daily report. It's a great way to make sure that everybody in the field knows what's expected of them because a lot of times it ends up where the office says, hey, make sure you're submitting your daily reports. And the field doesn't really know what to put on those daily reports. And so they just say everything's good and hit send if they do it at all. And then the office is annoyed that they don't have their finger on the pulse of a project. The field's annoyed that they had to even waste their time and nobody's happy. So Job Planner designed the daily reports and the survey specifically just to make sure that everybody who's in the field, the foreman filling out this daily, knows what's expected of him so he can enter in that information and make sure that it's actually useful as we're trying to, like I said, keep our finger on the pulse of a job. Other things to mention here from the mobile app, we saw the photo capture, daily reports, the drawings that I'll go into a little bit later, that's all within the mobile app as well. So I could see all of these different plans, the various versions of them. I could tap into, say, an electrical plan here, zoom in, and I could absolutely mark this up from the field here as well. We can see my markup tools over on the left. Maybe you have a convention or with Job Planner, you could establish a convention of saying, hey, as we complete work, I'm going to go ahead and mark that off in this nice orange color and I can strike off the receptacles that we installed that day, right? Or things like that. So you could strike those different things off or highlight them or add a text box or a question field. You could initiate a punch list item from the plans here, all that good stuff. And then if I go ahead and hit that little cheerleader megaphone icon down at the bottom next to the trash can, that means I'm going to publish this particular markup to the public layer, meaning anybody who views this drawing is going to be able to see this markup. It's not just my personal one. I'm actually publishing that so folks in the field can see it as well. So great way to get status updates here as we continue working on jobs. Great. Last thing I'll mention on the mobile app before I jump back over. Bonus content wasn't on our agenda, but I think I'd be remiss not to mention Job Planner does have time card tracking as well. And not only is it time card tracking, it could be for yourself and for multiple folks. So if you want to have kind of a crew situation where a foreman is going to be entering time on behalf of an entire crew, I have this enabled in my environment where I can say multiple, select that crew, and have all of those different guys in this crew where I could then say, yep, these guys were here, but John wasn't here today. So I can hit done, pull all of these folks in, and go ahead and hit bulk entry on the bottom where I'm going to enter time for all of these guys. I could either enter time for the entire job or I could enter individual line items. And this could be informed by your accounting system. You set up your work breakdown structure, your various sub jobs within there of maybe, hey, this is going to be multiple roofs that we're installing. Maybe this is going to be multiple buildings that this project is happening in. And those are going to be sub jobs within the overall project. You could even have your guys code their time to those specific sub jobs to get really granular with our job cost reporting. Otherwise, it could just be time capture for the entire job. Doesn't need to be to that level of detail. They could be prompted to sign for it, as you can see up at the top, and then submit this time for all of these different folks. I'll also mention, guys, we could not just track crews and individuals, equipment as well. So if you had pieces of equipment that you wanted to track the usage of for job costing purposes or maybe for billing purposes, then you could absolutely have them track that as well. So I have these different pieces of equipment assigned to this job for time tracking purposes. Great. That's the last thing I wanted to show on the mobile app. I'm going to fly through the last couple of pieces that we had today just to make sure that we have some good time for Q&A at the end. So one of them was scheduling. So as I mentioned earlier, perhaps you're provided a master schedule from a GC and it just doesn't have the level of detail that you guys need. JobPlanner does have a very strong scheduling tool built right into it. You can import from your template library and say, hey, it's a this type of job, it's a that type of job. And then you could have your, like I said, your template library living in here where if it's going to be, a warehouse job and we have a specific type of, Gantt chart skeleton built out in the system, we can import that, keep the dependencies there as well. Just select the start date and it's going to know the duration and pull all of those items in. You could also import from Microsoft Project or P6 if you guys are using either of those scheduling tools. We do have the ability to import from those and then create your Gantt right from there. I keep saying a Gantt chart and showing you a task list. There's 3 different ways we could view the schedule here, either on just a list of tasks like this with start and finish dates, or on a calendar view, I could see that, or on a timeline view. And so here's my true Gantt chart where I can go ahead and see here, hey, I have to complete this task and then do my punch list. And here's when the punch list should be completed. Here's substantial completion. And you'll notice all of those dependencies. Guys, I can just establish that with a simple drag and drop. I could even resize these tasks and say, hey, this is going to take a little bit longer than we thought. And you'll notice that it pushed out the rest of these tasks as well, just because of the dependencies I have set up. You do have the ability, of course, to double click on any of these tasks and say, hey, the punch list is going to be completed by a particular person or crew at our company. So I could assign this task to those individuals, send out reminders before that task starts, let them know that the finish date or the start date used to be on the 8th and now it's going to be on the 10th, right? You could go ahead and set all of that up right within the scheduling tool here. At the end of the day, you're not just managing one job, you're managing lots of jobs more than likely. So here in the schedule tool, it's great for managing one job. But if you want to get more of a company-wide view, we do have this calendar over here on the left, which is going to populate with tasks from all over your various projects. And so within here, with that color coding maintained, I'm able to see that we're completing tasks on the Tower Hotel project. Here's the finish date for a residential job that we've been working on. Meanwhile, we need to create the punch list item on a dental office job. And so we can see these tasks are getting pulled in from the schedules of all of these different projects. Green means complete. Gray means it hasn't started. And you could establish your own color coding there too. If blue means in progress and orange means it's in danger of going over schedule, you could establish all of those yourself just over in settings. And then people can change those statuses. If you want, they could even change the status and the progress completed from the field on the mobile app, and just a very seamless way to communicate, again, between field and office. Great. So all these, more project management type things are great and helpful. We took a look at drawings a little bit, took a look at the Gantt chart, the markups, extended team collaboration of assigning things to other individuals and allowing them to come into JobPlanner. The last piece that I really wanted to make sure I mentioned before I open up for Q&A is the job costing tools and also our accounting connections. So I'll go ahead and jump over to the right side over here for job costing. So within JobPlanner, we have this variety of tools here. For instance, I'll just go ahead and start with a budget. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open up another job for us here this Eastgate strip mall job, come over to the budget, and we can see that this particular budget came over from my accounting system. So I went to the ERP admin tool because I have the rights to do so, and I can show you what that looks like right here. And this tool, what it allows you to do is establish that connection with your accounting system. And say, in this case, my demo environment happens to be hooked up with Acumatica. But again, we connect with a variety of accounting systems, including your QuickBooks Onlines of the world, Sage 100, Sage 300, things like that. So within this ERP admin tool, we have the ability to see, here's my jobs that are currently eligible to be pulled over from my accounting system. Maybe I've already had my budgeting in there. I uploaded my estimating into here. And now I'm ready to pull this into JobPlanner and actually execute and manage this project. What I can now do is as soon as I click on, so for instance, this Buford Middle School project, we're ready to import that into the system. It's going to think for a couple of seconds, create that job. And then that job's going to be brand new, but over on the job costing side of things, it's already pulled in that work breakdown structure. And so here I have my general requirements, design and install of this particular Eastgate strip mall job. And if I break out one of these sub jobs, we can see that this is from a concrete perspective here. So I can see all of my cost codes broken out. So it's rolled up to this sub job level where my overall original budgeted for this job was just shy of 179K. And I can see it's broken out by forming labor and forming equipment costs. Materials for the forming is broken out here, and all of that kind of tracking. So labor, material, equipment cost. If you do have subcontractor expenses, if you need to sub out some portion of the scope, that could be tracked within here as well. So not just my original budget amount, also change orders as they're coming in, my forecast to complete, time cards. If people are tracking their time to these different activities, then we'll be able to see that accumulate right here. And then we can see that budgeted versus actuals view because I can pull the actuals column from the ERP. And so then as costs are actually accumulating on this, we can see it right here. This is going to pull in expenses that are posted in QuickBooks, or it's going to pull in, AP as it's hitting the project and subcontractors or purchase orders, we're receiving the AP bills against that PO. That can go ahead and hit the actuals right here, and we can watch that accumulate and see if, are we in danger of going over budget or something like that. Commitments right here. You absolutely can issue your purchase orders from JobPlanner. So you could go ahead and create your POs from our system. If you need to create subcontracts, you can, but purchase orders is more relevant here where I can open this up and see, I could have payment terms on here. I could go ahead and select who the contracted company is and then have bill to and ship to populate on my PO. So if this is going to be a drop ship to the project site, here, I'll go ahead and show you. If I just click new purchase order, I can copy the ship to from the project address, right? So I don't even have to type that in here. I can just copy it in. If it's going to be shipped to your warehouse, your yard, you could go ahead and set up the bill to, copy it from your own address book, and then copy the ship to from the bill to. So in other words, it's just really speeding up that process of creating this purchase order. Adding the items to it is as simple as coming over to the schedule of values and adding new line items. I could make this unit and quantity based where I could say, hey, I am purchasing something for the design of this particular or the install here. And I can say, hey, we're buying block, right? It's materials and what exactly type of block are we buying? Or if you know your supplier SKUs, you can type them in here. And then say how many of those we're buying. Is it in inches? Is it cubic yards? Is it square feet of whatever material we're purchasing? What the unit price is? And it's going to ultimately generate a purchase order document for you to go ahead and send off to that supplier. These POs can be integrated to the accounting system as well. So you don't need to create the purchase orders in QuickBooks or in Sage. They can be created in JobPlanner and pushed over. When it comes to receiving AP against these as well, if I take a look at that PO that's already been approved, right here in this Invoices tab, I'm able to see that I'm able to enter in new invoices for this particular purchase order. Instead of showing it to you here, I'm actually going to show it over on the contract side of things, where this is your contract with the GC or with the homeowner, municipality, whoever your customer is. You could go ahead and establish them as the client, Generic Builders LLC by, Chad Generic. He's a good friend of mine. He's the client on this particular project, and I can see my schedule of values. Now, maybe your schedule of values is broken out in detail like this. Maybe it's just a single line with that GC. Either way is just fine. Once this contract has been approved, we could actually create a contract document right here. I have markups in my environment where all I've done is pull the budget into my contract and established a markup. And so this is just me tracking my budget and my revenue to the same level of detail. Does not need to be that way, right? I can just say, hey, my total sales for this job is going to be, 10 grand, and I estimate 8 grand cost on it. So there's my margin just built into it. You don't necessarily need to set it up this way, but in this case, I do have markups, but I'm going to export my contract without those detailed markups. So it's just what the GC is going to be seeing here. So here's that contract. If this is going to be something that you would provide to a customer where they're not issuing you a PO, right? Otherwise, if you've just been issued the PO, and you're going to be entering that in, you can enter that schedule of values, which again could be multiple lines or just a single line. Subsequently, when it's time to invoice for that, you can absolutely use JobPlanner for that invoicing process. I'm actually going to delete this one out so I can start from scratch. Come over here into invoices on this contract and hit new invoice. And now I'm going to create this invoice here. I'll have to select my billing periods here, which can be automated, but I'm just going to pick some dates so it lets me create this. Come over to the schedule of values, and then I'm going to go ahead and select which line items are relevant to me right now. So again, this could be specific lines on your contract or overall, like what the entire contract value is. And then I can come right over here and do my percentage of complete, where I could either bill for the entire amount and just say, yeah, we're 100% complete. And then it's going to generate that total for us. Or I could say, do my percentage completion where I say we're 50% complete on this line, and I'll select another line here and say on this particular one, we're going to be 25% complete. And you'll notice how it's calculating that pending invoice amount for me. And if you have retainage on your jobs, JobPlanner can help with that, where if you set your retainage back on the contract, that is something that can be automatically withheld. So right here, I could just say, hey, there's going to be 5% retainage on this particular project. And then you'll notice that it's automatically going to withhold that retainage from my invoice. I can also export this, guys. You might be wondering, like, why would I want to do this in JobPlanner? Well, because we can generate your AIA documents. So if this is a pain and you have to do this in Excel today, right, where your accounting system gives you an invoice, but it's not what you can submit to the GC, JobPlanner does have the ability to generate this just out of the box, where we can have your G702, your G703, and there's even some configuration here on, do you want all lines to appear even if they're $0 amounts? Do you want it to roll up to the sub job level? Kind of just configure what your own report looks like here. And if it isn't quite right or we need to tweak it, JobPlanner during implementation can absolutely mess with the form design here and make sure it's going to be up to your spec and present to your customers in the right way. Great. Guys, last thing I'll mention here is just something I had discussed earlier on change management. JobPlanner absolutely has change orders and change requests just built into our system. So not only can you submit for payment, you could also right here on this contract, go ahead and generate a change order document. You could submit a change request to the GC, and then maybe you're submitting multiple, and now we're going to roll all of those change requests up into a formal change order. Or you could just click new change order here and start right from here, where I'm going to be able to pull in lines from my contract. And so for, I don't know, now we're going to have to do some additional permitting for some other work. So I'll go ahead and say that's coded as other project expenses. It's going to be additional permitting here. And I could say it's going to cost us another 5 grand, right? Now it's associated with a specific cost code on my contract, which again, I have mine set up where I'm tracking them pretty detailed. Yours doesn't need to be set up that way, where it's just an overall change order for the whole job. And now I could go ahead and, because I have the rights to do so, mark this as approved, at which point it's going to be a new line that I can bill for. So here's my approved change orders. If I come back to my invoice here, and I'll go ahead and delete this one out. My apologies for the quick clicking here, guys. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to establish my billing again. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Now, when I go to select line items, right here is my new prime contract change order, right? So I'd have the ability to bill for that additional 5 grand as long as it's marked as approved, right? I obviously skipped the step where I actually send this off to the GC or to the customer and have them review it, sign it, say, yep, we're fine with that change order. Then we mark it as approved and it can show up on subsequent invoices as something that we can bill against. So really, there's a lot of financial control right inside a job planner. Hopefully you guys are able to see as I go through the system how construction focused we are, right? This isn't just a general project management tool that kind of has some task management. It is specifically built for the construction industry with the needs that we have. It has AIA billing, right? It has change orders built into it. It has Gantt chart scheduling, submittals, daily reports that are specific to the construction industry, drawing management where I can upload. Oh, this one doesn't have much. Hold on. Drawings management where you can track our different sets of plans as revisions come in, communicating that with everybody that needs to view these things. So very construction focused tool. Um, Folks, that's all I had for us today on the demo side of things. Really appreciate everybody's attendance and attention. I'd love to, oh, I forgot to go to the let's take a look slide. I'd love to open it up for questions. So what kinds of questions do people have about the solutions that we've provided here? Any other, things that people are wondering, can it handle this? Can it do that? Or just even stories that we've come across as we've been implementing Job Planner at various construction companies. We have about 7 minutes left, so curious to hear if anybody in attendance has questions for us.
Brian, I know one oftentimes I get, can the tool be implemented if they're let me rephrase this. If they're implementing an ERP solution today, and that's going to take longer to implement the ERP, can they implement the project management solution ahead of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. The answer is absolutely yes. So, if you're considering a tech stack switch overall, and like Rob mentioned, ERP is part of that, accounting's part of it, and this kind of project management is as well. Yeah, you can get Job Planner up and running first. The one consideration I would have with that is Job Planner does talk to accounting systems to get your cost code structure into it. And so I would recommend that either you have that cost code structure set in stone first, and then you can start running Job Planner and have some of that financial management as well. Or if we say that's going to be something we're going to get to later during the accounting implementation, let's just get Job Planner up and running for just the operational stuff. In other words, everything from my cursor to the left. So everything under general and field tools, that's what we want to, we can still use that, right? Right from the gate after purchase, within a neighborhood of a week to 2 weeks is Job Planner's implementation timeline. We can get you up and running. You can start already getting the value out of using the drawing management, setting up your daily reports, managing RFIs and submittals inside of Job Planner, setting up inspection templates where you can have your own inspections of whether it be equipment or things that you've installed or something like that. So, yeah, great question. Looks like there's a question in the chat. Can it handle any type of bulk scheduling several houses down a street all at once rather than one at a time? Bulk rescheduling if weather affects scheduled dates. Yeah, so great question there, Ivan. If it comes to if there are going to be multiple jobs, like for that example of multiple houses on the same street, if it's multiple well, yeah, we would kind of think of that as maybe sub jobs where you could have a summary task. Like for instance, I have on this one framing with different floors of this hotel as part of that. Then yeah, that could be one way to manage it. Where if I scroll over on my Gantt chart here, I could have these different subtasks underneath that with dependencies where if I change one thing, it's going to bump everything else out. So if it's within one project, yes. When it comes to multiple jobs at the same time, where it's like they're unrelated from one another, then there isn't like inter-project Gantt chart functionality today. But if you're considering it one project, then you could establish dependencies within that. You could even have dependencies from this summary task to another summary task, right? Where this house is going to be, one summary task with its various, like its own little Gantt within it. And then it's tied to another house where we can't even start on that other house until we finish this one, right? Yes. So great question there.
And And that's really an important question because I think part of what he's probably asking in that is weather impacts, material impacts, things that
Hmm.
happen a day in the life and in construction firms. That's the real world. And so you've got a schedule, but that schedule doesn't always start off or actually play out the way it was designed or written out. It could
Right.
change day by day, week by week.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Good point there. So I'll also mention on the weather side of things, I alluded to it briefly, but just to reiterate, on the daily report, you do have the ability to see precipitation totals on here, as well as someone can mark a daily report as delayed and then give a delay reason. So in this case, there was a sinkhole, right? So they had to shift stuff to another place. So any safety issue on site? Yeah, there was a big old sinkhole, right? And so I could see that photo that was captured from the daily report right here. So yeah, when it comes to weather and how that affects things and just reporting on delays, the daily reports might be a good place for that. Great. Anything else in the last 2 minutes that we have? Don't be shy, folks.
While we're waiting for other questions, Brian, I think the other one we should circle back on is the implementation
Yeah.
timeframe. I mean, why don't we talk a little bit about that because that's got to be on everybody's mind. That's how long does it take to get this tool up and running, to get the adoption, to
Right.
get value from the tool. That's very important. You've got a good value prop from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you bringing that up. So, I mentioned Job Planner's implementation timeline, somewhere in the neighborhood of a week to 2 weeks. That's usually handled by your account rep that would be assigned after sale, and then they would be essentially responsible for your implementation, but then also your ongoing support. So you're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 web meetings with them where you can invite anybody that you want to from your team to those meetings. And then for an hour to 90 minutes, we'll run you through specific portions of the tool. We'll make sure that's configured up to your specifications. We'll get you in the tool so you can start to establish your templates and make sure that everybody knows how it works. And then after that initial kickoff, for that kind of little sprint there for a week or so. And again, that's not a week where that's your full-time job. It's a couple of hours throughout that week to get everybody up and trained. You have access to that same account rep in perpetuity to reach out to them with questions. Something's broken. I want you to change that form. And like my change orders look weird. Can you fix that? That's that same person. You'll have their email address. You could even have their phone number to reach out to them specifically, not just like a ticket system where you hope that someone looks at it eventually. So yeah, the implementation timeline is a lot more brief than you might think, and it's a lot more personal than you may have experienced with other software implementations as well.
I can testify to that. And that's hard to find in the construction industry space.
Right.
And that's why we partner with Job Planner.
Great. Appreciate that. Well, we're right at time, so pretty much perfect timing. If anybody else does have other questions, they can please feel free to reach out to either PJ or myself. Please reach out to Rob if you guys have questions about either Job Planner or you're looking at an accounting switch. Like I mentioned earlier, Rob can say it, but I'll back him up. There's a wealth of knowledge at Dominate Solutions to help you guys out with really whatever software consulting you're looking for. Even if it's not just project management and accounting, if it's something related, they've been in the industry long enough to be able to make very solid recommendations. So great. Well, I'll just thank Rob one more time before I kick it over to him to close this out. Thanks for having us. We're excited to continue working with you guys, and thanks everyone for joining. Rob, any closing thoughts?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, PJ. Wonderful presentation. If you have questions on the solution, if you want to talk about what ifs, how we can help, we would welcome that. And that's always a good place to start is evaluation. And again, we bring a very independent mindset to help you solve some of your biggest challenges to make you more efficient. So we look forward to talking with anyone who would like to explore this further.